Okay, what are the 5 steps to high-touch customer satisfaction? And what I mean by high-touch is sort of evident in this first one. You need to find out where you are with you need to always know where you are with your customers. Unless you really understand how you're doing, it's really difficult to respond. Now, you all, when you do stuff on the internet, you constantly ask to fill out surveys. That's not a bad thing, but that's not very high touch. So the first thing is qualitative visits. Do you all remember, I think it was a United Airlines commercial from probably 20 years ago where the CEO walks into the boardroom and everyone's sitting around the table. He has a fistful of airline tickets and he said, "I just got a call from our best customer who's leaving." And he handed out the airline tickets to everybody in the room and he said, "We're all going to go out and visit every customer." And in the case of Catalyst, that's what I had to do. It was a really fun year, by the way. But flying around the country and visiting the CIOs of really big companies and having them yell at you is really kind of an interesting thing. But they're all, the interesting thing too is the more senior they are, the more polite they are, so they have less of, it actually wasn't so bad. But you need to really go see your customers. And even if it's a consumer business, you really need to go see your customers and find out directly from them what's going on. That's the very best way. Obviously, surveys are good. Loss analysis is important, and this chart here isn't important other than it's a quantitative study that the 2 red ones are the ones that are out of bounds. If you lose a sale, it's very important to figure out why. Or if you lose a customer, it's very important to find out why. You'll get a lot of information from loss analysis. The last one is sort of a more contemporary one, and that is social listening. Does everybody know what that is? Actually, there are a couple commercials I've heard lately on that. That is, with the advent of the internet, this used to be true years ago. When Catalyst was a public company, there was a site for shareholders who complained because the company wasn't doing well. But social listening is there are services that will go out and sort of scour the web to see what people are saying on the internet about your company, because that's how people provide a lot of unsolicited feedback now, which some of it's good, some of it's not. But it's really important to know what people are saying about your company, and the services that do that for social are called, the whole generic area is called social listening. So first you need to find out where you are, and you need to know it all the time. Constant feedback. The next one is corporate culture. And I'll use a different company after this, but I'll use Catalyst one more time. The culture at Catalyst had become one where the customers, the company had gone public, it had a lot of cash, things were fine, but customers were viewed as pretty much a nuisance. That was the corporate culture, was that if customers called in, it was, interrupting their day. And they're not bad people, and I'll get to why that's true in a minute, but it was the culture of the company to just not pay attention to the customers. The feeling that the customers were the one paying the bill just wasn't part of the culture. So we embarked on this is the hardest organizational change that a company can go through, is to change the culture. But with exactly the same employees and a lot of effort to focus on the customer, we were able to change the culture so that the same people who spent a few years annoying the customers were the same people who actually turned around and made the customers happy. So corporate culture that focuses on the customer is really critical. The third one is multiple regular points of contact, and I'll use a different company example for this one. One of the companies I ran was Dun & Bradstreet Software. It's a $500 million company, and it had lost money for 10 years and had shrunk for 10 years. At one point, it was the largest software company in the world in the late 80s. Again, a great customer base, American Express, Citicorp, big companies who were semi-satisfied. And the issue with D&B, it had been bought by a Canadian company called GIAC at the time. The issue there was when the software worked great, when the users of the software called the help desk, the people were terrific, everything got solved, everything worked smooth. Almost every one of those customers, though, was looking to buy a different solution. And so why do you think that was? The only point of contact that that company had with the customers was at that operational level. They had for years not talked to any of the decision makers. They didn't let them know what the strategic direction of the company was. They didn't let them know what developments were coming, nothing. That became really clear to me when I went to visit, I think it was a Japanese car company, most of which are based in Southern California. I went to visit the CIO of that company. Now, mind you, this was 10 years after the acquisition in question. 10 years. The D&B software was built up by the acquisition largely of McCormick and Dodge and MSA, two large ERP companies. I talked to this CIO and he said, you know, keep in mind it's 10 years, I haven't seen anyone from your company, and he's the buyer, anyone from your company since you used to be McCormick and Dodge. That was not a good thing. So you need to maintain contact with your customers at all levels, the buyers, the decision makers, the economic buyers, the users. It's very important to do that. What's the fourth one? Engage your customers in your company. And I'm going to use a different example as the fifth point in a minute, so we'll come back to that. But, and again, I live my life in the software world, so software companies should have user groups where you actively solicit feedback from your customers. You need advisory boards so that new product decisions and features and functions come from your customers because they're the ones who live with it every day. And to involve them actively in that decision-making process is one way that actually makes them part of the company, and they're not going to go anywhere if they feel like they have a voice. The last one is to make your company easily accessible. And I'm going to go through an example that actually is a real-life example from Microsoft. And one thing that will make it difficult, and I've run into this recently in a couple of cases where I'm trying to figure out how to fix something, and I can't for the life of me figure out who to call. It's actually it's a consumer service, and I need to cancel it, and I, for the life of me, can't figure out how. I can't find a phone number, I can't find a website, I can't find anything. Now, I'm going to go away anyway, but just think if I was trying to buy something and I couldn't find them. That would be very, very difficult. And I'll use some liberty with Dilbert. This is actually relevant to all of them, but this is a common joke, but the pointy-headed boss says, we've moved our call centers to Elbonia, but we don't think anyone will notice. And then the Elbonian call center answers the phone with his name. And then it actually says, I mean Carl, but because everyone's seen the commercial lately from the bank that has the calls going into the guy who says his name is Peggy. So I took a little liberty with Dilbert, but